On today's show, Luka Doncic, Slovenia wins a game, but I'm a little concerned about their chances in EuroBasket. And then Jokic gets it done again against Porzingis' Latvia. We'll talk about that and more. Today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You're Locked On NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being in every day or making Locked On NBA your first listen each and every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use that code Locked On NBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And joining me from the great Locked On Nuggets show and Locked On NBA Game Night, what'd you see in EuroBasket today, Swipa?
A lot of really good basketball. I've actually really enjoyed this tournament more than I have in previous years. And maybe some of that is because we have so many NBA players that are playing this year outside of Wemby. So the talent pool has been incredible. The level of play has been incredible. You know, obviously we'll talk about Latvia, but Kristaps Porzingis has had a really good tournament so far. Luka has played well. Giannis has played well. Jokic has played well. Schroeder's played well. We just have so many players that are just, I think, showing up in different ways for their country, and everybody different levels. You know, we'll talk about Slovenia here, but you know they're on the brink of elimination, and Luka is doing whatever he can at all times to try to keep them in contention. But you know, today another miracle game from Luka Doncic.
They needed it for sure. So we'll talk about EuroBasket. If you haven't been paying attention, EuroBasket is a tournament overseas, and they have all these different teams from across Europe, and it's fun every couple of years that we get to do this and see all these NBA players play in completely different contexts, completely different players, teammates, things like that, and get to see how they play. Certain guys just like jump off the page. Simone Fontecchio had 39 points today, and you're just going, what the heck, where did this guy come from? And so we're going to talk about two games today. We'll talk about Serbia versus Latvia. That was from Saturday. And we'll talk about Slovenia versus Belgium. That was Sunday. And of course, we'll play Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including Jaylen Brown getting locked up by a principal. It makes me laugh every time I see it. We'll talk about that and more. But let's start here. Slovenia gets the win against Belgium. A pretty dominating win for Slovenia and Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic finishes the game with 26 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, and 3 steals in 30 minutes. Just to give you context on who Slovenia is, they are led by Luka Doncic, obviously. They had Vlatko Čančar and they had Zoran Dragic, but they both withdrew from the competition from EuroBasket before it started, which is a little surprising for some of those. And Slovenia is coming off of a loss to France. They are playing back-to-back. They're doing this thing where they play back-to-backs and they have a rest day and all that. So this is the second night of a back-to-back for them. Luka had 39 points in that loss to France, but this game for Luka, he missed his first like 4 to 5 shots, and then he followed it up with a bully ball jumper where he just backed down this guard that just had no shot at all to defend Luka. It looked like I was guarding Luka, honestly, where you're just like, oh my God, I feel so bad for that guy. He hits a jumper over top of him, and that was really emblematic of the whole rest of the game because Luka just played bully ball against Belgium and just had no chance. Belgium doesn't have any former or current NBA players.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes Luka so transcendent when it comes to international basketball is because he's such a great ball handler and distributor. When he is playing on the ball, he puts so much pressure on the defense, very similar that he does obviously in the NBA. But it's his over-the-top shot making. I think that really makes a big difference for him just overall. And then on top of that, you know, because he's 6'7", when he does get guards on him, he's able to get them down low into the paint. He's a very proficient finisher down there. But then at the three-point line, he's also been really confident. Now, he hasn't been hitting his shots at the clip that you would want him to and maybe expect him to. You know, maybe he'll have one of those really big games where he'll be making 15 of like 22 shots or something like that coming up soon, which they might need. But what happens is Luka, to your point, gets on this rhythm where he'll miss a few, and then all of a sudden it's like an avalanche. It starts cascading out of nowhere, and Luka gets on these rolls. So just a great overall game from him. I love what I'm seeing from Luka. I love how he looks physically. You know, defensively, Slovenia is just not very good, but today I think they had a very advantageous matchup versus Belgium. Belgium is just not the greatest team. Slovenia also is not the greatest team either, but they have a clear talent advantage even over Belgium, and they put that on full display tonight. And if you look in the group that they're in, Group D, Slovenia is currently sitting at 1-2. They have 4 points, Belgium has, well, they're 1-2. They have 4 points. And Iceland is undefeated so far in group play. But ahead of Slovenia is Poland, Israel, and France, 2-1, 2-1, and Poland is sitting at 3-0. So they're going to need a little bit of luck on their side, and they're going to need to continue to win their bracket in order to be able to advance to the single elimination tournament. But I love the fact that Luka's getting out here playing basketball, looks good. He's putting on for his country like he normally does. And I think he's in contention for MVP at a tournament so far. And obviously, that's not to be unexpected. There's Luka Doncic. He's one of the greatest players we've ever seen so far at this point in time in his career. But today, he looks good. He got the win. They got what they needed. And we'll see what happens next game for him.
Yeah, that was big. You mentioned his shot not going down. He's been going to the free throw line like nuts.
Yeah.
And it's just because these guys can't stay in front of him. When Luka has his conditioning under him and he can get his legs under him and his quick first step, and all of a sudden you get out of position defending Luka, you have no shot. And then you saw this. He only took 9 free throws today, but had 20 the other game, had 18 the game before that. Like, he's just been going to the line a ton. The thing about Slovenia is they've had this issue, and they tried to court Daniel Gafford and try to bring him onto that team. And the reason why is because they need a lob threat. They had this guy, Mike Tobey, for a while that was doing an okay job for him. But they just have not had a lob threat. And I don't think they really have one on this team. Luka looks like he's the biggest player on the court. And you mentioned how they struggle defensively. That's one of the reasons, is because they just don't have enough size on this team. And my other concern for them is just the level of talent, that it feels like every year I watch this Slovenian team, they siphon off more and more talent. Goran Dragic was obviously, it was incredible when he got to play next to Luka, and that was a great run, fun. And then he stepped away, when he retired. And then you had Zoran Dragic and Chanchar that we talked about earlier, both withdrew before this tournament. Those are both former NBA players that or at least one of the most talented players on this team. They also had this guy, Ziga Samar, who was supposed to be like this up-and-coming guard for Slovenia, and then I just haven't really seen a lot of him. He's not playing on this team. It just doesn't seem like there's been a pipeline behind Luka that has added to talent as they've lost it, and so it just feels like Slovenia is Luka's just trying to drag a team that gets almost like worse and worse every year. It feels like to me.
Klemen Prepelic, I believe is how you say his name, is a good player. Huh?
Yeah, he's been really good for them last couple of years.
Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's added a lot to the team and to the roster, obviously, this year. But
he's been,
you're looking for options outside of Luka Doncic, and like his usage is so incredibly high just because they don't have anybody that's really putting the fear into the defense on the other end. And I think the biggest real issue they have is, like, I feel like Luka, very similar to the Mavs in 2024 when they made the title run, when he used to play for the Dallas Mavericks.
Did he?
For a little bit, apparently. I think one of the things they had was a really defensively slanted lineup around him. And they just said, hey, Luka and Kyrie can save us offensively. We just need people to be able to cover it on the other end. And I think Slovenia's biggest issue, they just can't guard anybody, and not consistently, especially if they have upper tier talent. We got a chance to see in a friendly play Serbia versus Slovenia, and it was just like, they just ran, roughshod over them. Like, they just couldn't guard them at all. And then, Luka's trying to make up for deficiencies on the roster because he's so big, to your point, and he's getting walled off in the post, and like they're setting down screens for him, making him run around 2 or 3 screens. And we know that's just not Luka's best skill set. And so Luka literally is like, all right, I'm trying my best to do like a LeBron James invitation from the 2015 NBA Finals, but I don't even have a Timothy Mozgov to be able to finish these plays around the rim. But Slovenia, I do think, if they continue to just just kind of chop away at like what's in front of them, there is a chance where they can just maybe move on a little bit, but they're really going to have to like lock in and get some really important wins coming up, because you just can't get any further down on the list than they are in terms of where they rank in their group. And I think they have a matchup versus Iceland that they should win. Like I said, Iceland is not good. So that's a team that they hopefully should be able to get a win against in here in 2 days, I believe is when the game is going to be. And like I said, that's a team, if you look at their group in Group D, Iceland's the only team besides Belgium with a worse record than they have. So they're going to need to really stack that other win, get the 2-2, and then let the chips fall where they may. But again, that's going to take Luka, even in that game, being like kind of a superhero for that roster.
And build that point differential too, which matters in there too. So that's definitely going to matter. But
how did you feel about when they played France, and at the end of the game, when Luka kind of shook his hand and went to the side, and then he went and scored because of the point differential?
Oh, I mean, there's time left, and you shake the guy's hand, but then you have a point differential. It's like you see both sides in a sense. But I'm one that if you shake hands, it's done. Like you just dribble it out.
But that's kind of, I don't know if you remember, we had
or you skip the shake hands to me. Like you skip the shake hands and you just drive by him, be like, nope, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna just drive. Like, don't do both. Like, don't shake the hand.
That would have looked really bad too, though, because then everybody looking at Luka like, what are you doing? And then Luka gets blamed for that. But to be fair, in the in-season tournament in the NBA, similar things happen where teams would be up 15, 17, and then they would keep scoring until the end of the game or try to get the deficit as close as possible. So I think it's just a part of like the play. You just have to score as many points as you can. Yeah,
but you can't like signal that the play is done by shaking the hand. It's almost like when you roll the ball out to somebody and then you just go try and grab it yourself.
Well, I saw Floyd Mayweather retain a belt doing this exact same thing when he got cheap shot at it and then somebody tried to shake his hand and he boom gave him a 1-2 and there you go. I win the match.
Yeah, we should all try to be like Floyd Mayweather. Coming up, let's get into Serbia's last game against Kristaps Porzingis and Latvia. Talk about Jokic dominated today. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Locked On NBA Game Night continues. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. There's so many different things flying all over the place. I just traveled. I'm sure you've traveled over the summer and you're just trying to figure out, all right, what did I spend? Where? My card is going here, and there, and everywhere. You're spending, trying to get those credit card points. You're pulling from your savings account if you got a travel fund or whatever, and you got to figure out, all right, at the end of all this, where did all my money go? Where is it now? And that's where Monarch Money can help you. It's built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is there for you. It does the heavy lifting. You link all your accounts in minutes. It's really quick. I did it myself. I connected so many different things like student loans, 401k, mortgage, so many different things. Use this code, LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Again, the code is LOCKEDONNBA to get your finances in order. Built for people with busy lives, monarchmoney.com. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night, being part of this show, listening every single day. We've got a Locked On NBA show that covers your favorite team, Swipa, Matt Moore, Ryan Blackburn, the Dream Team covering the Nuggets over there, me and Isaac covering the Mavericks over on our show. We're doing it still throughout the offseason, all of us. So you can go listen to some of these shows. Go listen to Locked On Lakers to hear more about Luka, I guess. God, I can't believe I have to say that every single time. Plug that show.
Well, look, you'll be able to say we're covering Cooper Flag. And so that would be.
Oh, that's right. That's right. As soon as I get to start seeing him play more, with the first summer league game, I was like, finally.
Okay, what if he wins Rookie of the Year this year? He averages 17, 8 and 5. I think you'll feel like a lot better in the playoffs, mind you. He'll get a first run this year too. And Anthony Davis, Kyrie comes back for a miracle run in March. I think you'll feel a lot better.
Let's go. You're speaking my language for sure. I just feel bad because I miss covering the Slovenia team. It was one of the most fun things every single year is to turn into Locked On Slovenia and just get to cover it in the offseason. But alas, now I get to cover Team USA for real because Cooper Flag's definitely gonna be on that. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's talk about the Serbia versus Latvia game. So you mentioned Serbia a couple times. Serbia, obviously led by Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jovic from the Heat is on it. Tristan Vucevic is on it from the Wizards. Several other NBA players. Like every name on Serbia, it feels like has had a cup of coffee in the NBA here and there. Bogdan Bogdanovic was on this team, but he left last game with a hamstring injury against Portugal. And then they're playing against Latvia. This Latvia team's led by Kristaps Porzingis, Davis Bertans, his brother. Darius Bertans, who's in the NBA as well.
Arturas Kirkus, what's his name? Arturas Kurix as well. It's on that roster.
Keep going. Yeah.
He used to be. He's a player. He can play.
The names, man. The best ones are like the Greece team. You just open it and they're just all like 16. Right. It's Giannis and his brothers and like so many.
Right.
So long, but lots of NBA talent in this game for sure. And this was a high energy game. It was in Latvia. You felt it early on. Like the difference between these two games we're talking about today was massive. But honestly, like it came down to just Jokic dominating 39 points, 10 boards, 4 assists, doing all his work in the paint. Literally only took 4 shots outside of like 10 feet in this game. Didn't really need to. And Serbia scored 42 points in the paint compared to Latvia's 22. Like it just felt like it was just a Jokic dominating fashion, especially when Porzingis was out.
Yeah, I think one of the issues right now with Serbia is they're the favorite to win the tournament as they should be when they're healthy. But But Bogey is actually not going to be available to the rest of the tournament because of that injury, which is extremely unfortunate. He is their second best player, at least has been historically. Jovic actually has had a really good tournament so far in EuroBasket, but he just absolutely was nowhere to be seen offensively in that game versus Latvia. Now, some of that was just the type of coverages they were seeing. One thing that teams are doing so far is that when Jokic is on the floor so far in EuroBasket, they might play a traditional man-to-man with help weak side or send a double top side. But without him, they're playing zone, and they just don't have the penetrators consistently because Micic is just not like, I would say, fully 100% right now. And then obviously no Bogey. They just don't have the same ability to take advantage of that. And so Jokic, just by nature of how the game flow went, had to be extremely aggressive as an offensive scorer. And if you look at the games leading into this, he hadn't had to really turn that on as consistently. I mean, Jokic going into the fourth quarter had 23 points and I think had 7 rebounds as well. And so he came back in early with like 8 minutes left because the game previously he didn't play in the fourth quarter at all. And then it got a little bit tight versus Portugal, but they were able to ride that out. But then in this game, Jokic had to get in there because Kristaps started going. And then, I told Nick before the show started that every time I see him shoot, he reminds me of Matt Bonner, but Davis Bertans, he's just hitting these crazy deep threes. And he had one late in the game to put him within 2. But Jokic just went to, I would say, I called it on Twitter, the best player in the world type of zone, where he just gets in this place where it's like physically, he just becomes so imposing as an offensive rebounder, as a screen setter. Some of the screens that he was setting and the post positioning he was getting on Kristaps was stuff that is good for teaching tape. Like if you ever just want to teach somebody and teach your child, how do you get positioned in the post and how do you set a screen to create as much advantage as possible for your teammate and for yourself? This is how you do it. Just turn on the Latvia game or Nikola Jokic in 2025. It was like one of those. And Jokic was trying to get other people involved. He even had one of these plays where he got Aleska a wide open DHO. And Armanovic is a good player too. And he just airballed. I'm talking about airballed a mid-range. And Guduric, not the best game for Guduric. He had 11 points, but typically he's even better than that. Petrusev, I actually think, had a pretty good game. I like Petrusev. He's a really good player. Like I said, Jovic nowhere to be seen. And so Jokic, man, you want to talk about just dominating on the interior. And then to end the game, they're up. I think they're up maybe 4 points. And this is about with a minute left. And at this point, Latvia's made a run. They're feeling good. Like I said, you got the Latvian Matt Bonner. It's ready to rock and roll, hit another 3 going down the other end. Kristaps is looking good. And then Jokic sets a screen, just does a quick little flare out, rotating left, gets the ball, movement 3 from a 7-foot, 280-pound center, splash. The next thing you know, they're up 7, and the game kind of gets put away. It was honestly one of the most impressive individual games I've seen from Jokic on the international level. And I think I've seen almost all of them since he's been in Denver. And really, there's been this carryover with Jokic, Nick, since the Olympics last year, where that regular season or playoff aggression you get from Jokic in the Nuggets uniform, he's really been carrying that over a lot more now by nature of the fact, I think, of his position within the Serbian team, but also because of what the team needs around him. And what I love about what Jokic did, he is this always looking to see, when should I turn on the gauge and just empty the clip? When should I trust my teammates and allow for them to do the job? Yesterday was a day that he decided that I need to do it, and then he responds with 39 points. So just an incredible performance from Jokic.
I mean, you talked about him getting position in the post. To me, watching him against Porzingis, it was just the footwork and the hips, just between those, watching him push Porzingis out of the way, not with his arms, not with an elbow or anything like that, but literally with his hips and his footwork was just, it's just masterful. And he's the best player in the world. And you see it. And when you talk about when he gets in that mode, when he can turn it on, he's just better than anybody and can get his position down low. And he's the reason why you have Shaq and Charles Barkley and them being go down in the post, get down in the post, because they see that and you're oh, he should be able to do that. Well, not everybody can do that, right? Shaq can do it. Some of the best centers of all time can do it, but Jokic is there, and some of these other centers are just not there at that point. But Jokic is. Yeah,
look, I'm excited though because they actually have just where things are right now. Like I said, just the fact that they're not going to be able to have a Bogey going forward. I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on the team to be able to step up. And I think there are people like like I said, Petrusev is going to need to really step up and make some noise. I actually really like Milutinov. If you're listening to this and you have no idea like who Milutinov is, like, Swipa is gassing like this. He's a backup center, but he's a good player. Like he's for what you asked for in EuroBasket, he's a good vertical spacer. Honestly, if Luka had Milutinov, I mean, all of a sudden he'd be able to throw those screen and lobs that he loves to play with. So they're going to really need the rest of the team to step up as well. I'm expecting Petrusev to be the one to kind of replace what Bogey does. I expect Jovic to have a better game. But look, the way this tournament's shaping up, they're in the best group, by the way. Again, if people don't know, like all the group breakdowns, the group Serbia's in, they're 3-0. Turkey is also 3-0.
Yeah, and
Latvia is sitting at 1-2. Turkey is good. And then in Group B, Germany's 3-0. Finland's 3-0. Lithuania's 2-1. So we're headed to a clash of titans, Nick, once we get into the single game elimination. And I honestly cannot wait for us to get there.
And we'll get there with a couple more games. I think each team has 2 more games left because they'll play 5 total, and then they'll go into this. They'll go into the actual tournament and play after that. And so, yeah, man, it is very interesting. Other notable things from EuroBasket today: Giannis had 27 points in Greece's win. So you mentioned they're 3-0 in Group C. Denny Avdia for Israel had 23 points in their win over France. France is an interesting team because you pull up their roster and you're like, oh, there's Risache, there's a bunch of names that you recognize, but it's not Gobert, it's not Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Spain, Willie Hernan Gomez had 19 points in their win over Cyprus. Simone Fontecchio had 39 points in Italy's win over Nurkic and Bastian Hernango. And so there's a bunch of different basketball going on. There's 2 more games left in this group, and then they'll play the actual tournament. Great stuff. But coming up for us, we'll play Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including Jaylen Brown getting locked up and a Polish CEO just getting on blast. I want to talk about this. We'll get into that more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds you can use to get in on the action, and you can do it on EuroBasket right now. I was looking it up as we were talking, and you mentioned that Serbia is the favorite. They're plus 125 to win the EuroBasket. Germany plus 300, so they're the second favorite. France plus 950. Pretty big gap between Germany and France right there. Then it's Greece with Giannis plus 1100, Turkey plus 1600, Lithuania plus 2200, Spain plus 2700, Italy plus 2700, Latvia plus 3000, and then Slovenia plus 3300. All the way down there, man. And Iceland, Cyprus, if you're feeling real lucky, plus 50,000. Put down $100 and you win $50,000 if they end up winning EuroLeague, EuroBasket, which is not going to happen. But hey, go check out FanDuel. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com. Get started. That's FanDuel.com, your place to put your first $5 bet. FanDuel, please gamble responsibly.
Big chicken, baby.
I think a lot. I'm very smart.
Take that for that.
Count it up, count it up, count it up, count it up, count it up.
It's Count It Up, where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. A Polish CEO went viral this week. He was at a tennis match, and there was a tennis player giving out autographs and passing out things and stuff. And there was a kid, and the tennis player handed the hat to the kid and then looked away for a second. And this Polish CEO in the crowd just snatched the hat away from him. And this video is going viral everywhere. You've probably seen it. But the CEO responded today. Did you see his response today? He said, "Yes, I took it. Yes, I did it quickly. But as I've always said, life is first come, first served. If you were faster, you would have it. I remind you that insulting a public figure is subject to legal liability. All offensive comments, slander, and insinuations will be analyzed for the possibility of taking the matter to court." My question is,
Count it up.
this is only going to make it worse for this guy, right? Like, there's no way this makes it better for him in any way.
I don't know if you've checked their company website, but I absolutely did. They have a 1.1 review rating right now.
Oh,
it is getting bombed with, I mean, everybody's just calling the CEO just what he is. And I think very selfish, extremely narcissistic. You know, when that happened, there's just an etiquette you expect. And maybe that's an American thing. Again, I'm saying that as in, like, I don't know. So I'm generally saying it could be a different possibility. Maybe it's just an American thing. If a child is available and you're a grown male and a grown man has a ball or hat, it is a part of public duty to an extent to hand said one item at a baseball game to child or tennis, whatever. And for this person, just stole it, like literally, like legitimately stole it.
And admits he took it. Like,
yeah.
He could have come out and said, no, the hat was handed to me. It was supposed to, right? He was just like, no, I took it. Like,
he took it. I was faster than the child, but mind you. Then he put it inside of his bag. And I really was sitting here like, did his wife see him do that, or did his child? Like, were they aware that the man in their life like made this kind of move? And then when he responded afterwards, for me, it was just like full entitlement, but also it's like, man, these are the people that like run our companies. This is how they think, like that they can just do whatever they want and nothing matters. I just thought that was so ridiculous. And so it's funny on the one end because the boy actually ended up getting rewarded. He met the tennis player. He actually got a hat.
Yeah.
So it all worked out in the end to be good. But at this point, like Nick, I honestly think, and you tell me if you think I'm tripping, like a part of like leadership is like your social responsibility to a degree. And at this point, his company is failing potentially because of this kind of behavior.
Well, my dad told me my whole life growing up, as soon as you step out of this house, you represent your name, our family name. Like he's like, you represent the church that we go to, you represent the place you work, you represent your school, you represent your country. If we go out of the country, like he was always about, you represent that name everywhere. And if you're the CEO, you represent that company and you represent, this is what we're all about. Taking hats away from kids is what we're all about. And so, yeah, I think he's getting what he deserves there, but hilarious. Like I was cracking up when I read his response. Jaylen Brown this week got clamped up by a principal. If you haven't seen this video, just look up Jaylen Brown principal. He was at some kind of school assembly and he was dribbling against the principal of this school. And the principal was like trying real hard. And Jaylen Brown was playing really lackadaisical. And the principal like snatched the ball away from him and stole the ball away from him. And then as soon as the principal starts dribbling, it's like one of the least athletic things I've seen in a minute.
But to be fair, Nick, he looked a little athletic. Like he looked like he played
athletic, but the defense made you think, oh man, it's like, is he gonna score on him? And then as soon as he started dribbling, you're like, oh man, this is like a football player trying to dribble.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think it was just funny. Jaylen obviously was trying to play around and be ha kiki, and then the principal ripped him, and everybody got amped. And I think at that point, JB was like, all right, bet. And then so very next possession, boom, boom, cross, leaves him in the dust a little bit, but goes slow enough to think he can get there and contest the ball, dunks it, and then the principal was just sitting here like, hands on his head.
And the principal didn't have to go for it. He went for it to be in the poster. My question for this one, though, is this more cool for the principal? Because you'll never be able to say anything to him ever again in that school. Or is this more sad for Jaylen Brown that he got clamped?
No, it's cool. I think about it. You're a civilian, which is I call a non-athlete, and you rip, one of the highest paid players at one point, the highest paid in NBA history, an all NBA player. That's a great moment. Matter of fact, I would take a picture of this, not put this on my wall somewhere. I mean, this would be a part of my story from now on.
Overwatch launched an ad campaign with Luka Doncic and put a billboard on one of the LED signs right outside the American Airlines Center, which is where the Dallas Mavericks play. The Mavericks requested strongly that it be removed. My question is, scale of 0 to 5, 0 being like not at all, 5 being the absolute worst. How sad is this by the Dallas Mavericks? Give me a sad meter.
5 is the worst.
5 is the saddest.
Yeah, it's 5. Like 5. Why would you? And because that request is going to be made public, why would you let anyone think this was getting to you? You know what I mean? Like at this point, just let it roll. My whole thing is, if somebody's clowning you, you just gotta let them get it out.
Let it play it out. Yeah.
Like even laugh at it, because if you're I don't know if you've ever been to a comedy show, but if somebody's making fun of you, you just gotta roll with the punches. Because if you start getting like throwing a fit or getting upset or mad, it makes it look worse. Because now it's like you with your people. Your people know you're getting laughed at, embarrassed, and everybody in the world is laughing at you. And I feel like you should just let it be. Like it's a billboard. They have legal right to that sign and property, and you don't. I can do whatever I want. I can put whatever I want. Fire Nico on that billboard, and it means nothing. So you shouldn't have said anything.
And that has been put on billboards around here for sure. My thing is that is exactly what this Mavericks team has struggled with. The franchise, not the team. The franchise has struggled with ever since. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it happen. Let the time run out. If you guys think that this is the best decision for this franchise to trade Luka, and you've doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on it and continue to do so and all that, you know, we see the vision now with Cooper Flag, obviously. And so you're like, just let it ride out. Everybody's going to say what they're going to say. This was the problem with them kicking out fans from games when that was happening. That was wild. When they put people up on the Jumbotron that would like mouth the words "Fire Nico," and then the guy got kicked out of the arena a little bit later, not allowing like certain signs and hats in and things like that. You just got to let it play out. You got to let it run its course, and it'll be done. But now that you've made it a bigger thing than it actually was, because like nobody would have known this. If
I wouldn't have known.
Like I may have like walked by the AAC or driven by it and saw Luka on a billboard and like posted him and like, oh my gosh, look at this, Luka is on a billboard. And it would have gotten, I don't know, like 100 likes. This is getting thousands, and like we're getting talked about all over the place, and it's on the front page of Reddit and everything.
Right. Yeah. I just think you got to let stuff go. It is what it is. The business is done. You got Cooper Flag. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're so ungrateful.
Put a different billboard on the other side with Cooper Flag on it. Like
that's what I'm saying. Just let it rock. Like you got Anthony Davis, Kyrie, and Cooper Flag. There are organizations that have never had a trio of players that good ever. Just let it rock.
And they won't. But we'll get to see some of that basketball. If you want to hear about that kind of basketball with that trio of players, go listen to Locked On Mavs. Go listen to Locked On Nuggets. Great stuff about Jokic and Serbia. If you want to hear more about EuroBasket, we'll continue to cover it here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us here. Go check out Locked On NBA Daily with Hayes and Matt Moore and Wes Goldberg this week. Great stuff all the time there. Boom.